Hi y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you'd like to hear someone talk about cats, rats, dogs, or reptiles, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button because it's kind of what I'm here for. So today is just going to be a real quick chit-chatty video with you guys. One of the questions I get asked the most when people find out that I have this many pets, because I actually don't volunteer the information in my real life everyday out and about whatevers, are why or what made you want to. So typically they get the simple answer of I just like them and it's what I'm into. That's usually pretty much what I say. The truth is it's a unique interest and it's unique to who I am. I take no offense to it whatsoever. I understand that it's not everyone's cup of tea, and that's cool too. So I figured, obviously this is based off of my personal experience from the time I was a child until now. So we're talking like 30 plus years of experience here that I compiled into a list of 10 signs someone could potentially grow up to have an entire room dedicated to their pets one day. So here we go. Sign number one is that they would rather play, or how they play. We'll say how they play. Now, also keep in mind, I grew up in the super early 90s when kids were just out running the streets on their own and unsupervised, and they came home when the lights were going out, okay? So a lot of this that refers to like childhood behavior, I guess, is going to be in that type of setting. It's a little bit different for kids these days. But how they play. I would leave the house in the morning and my parents knew that I probably wasn't at someone else's house. I was in the woods or in a creek somewhere. So when they needed me and they came looking for me, because cell phones weren't a thing back then, that's where they went first. So playing in the creeks, I, would be playing with the frogs, the turtles, the fish, the bugs, whatever. I'd jump in there and catch them with my bare hands. And that's how I would spend my days a lot of the time, was just playing in the creeks, hunting bugs, things like that. Sign number two that someone could potentially grow up to have an entire room dedicated to their pets one day are, what kind of TV shows do they watch? Still to this day, well, let me back up. I only watched animal documentaries, National Geographic, Animal Planet, and the such when I was a kid. I hated cartoons. I did not want to watch cartoons, but my mom used to laugh about if you put a documentary about alligators and their migratory patterns on TV, she'll sit and watch it for 2 hours. And it was very true. I would. So their TV interest. I didn't actually start watching other things until probably high school. But to this day, it's the same way. There's very few things I watch other than animal stuff. Sign number three are, it's very common for kids to collect things. What are they collecting? For me, this actually lasted a lot longer than a lot of kids. I collected frogs from the time I was about 5 all the way up until I was 18. Super easy to shop for at holidays and Christmas, or birthdays and holidays, because if it was a frog, I'd be happy. Again, early 90s, peace frogs were a really big thing. They were pretty much like these stickers with frogs that were doing like this. And that's all that they were, and I got those all the time. I had stuffed animals, the posters in my room, my jewelry, the little plastic ones. I'd get glass figurines. As long as I had a frog on it, I was happy. My room was decked out so crazy in the amount of frog stuff I had. Sign number 4 is that you tend to find the injured wildlife. Yes, I have very basic knowledge just from experience of what would work and wouldn't work. I'm not really going to go into detail on that because I am a firm believer in the fact that you need to contact a wildlife rescue. But I do have a plethora of information on that in my mind, just because I was always finding baby birds out of the nest and like turtles with cracked shells from cars and things like that. I'm not going to go into detail on how you fix those things, because the simple answer is you need to contact your local wildlife rescue. That's the answer. Reason number 5. You've researched animals for fun constantly in your free time. And you might still do it still to this day. Animals you may have no business ever keeping as a pet one day. But yeah, you just research animals for fun all the time, constantly. My friends actually know me as, or they'll joke around and say my party trick is random animal facts, because I do. If I'm bored or I don't have anything else to do, I will Google care for a certain animal that I may never have any business owning or wanting to own. Like, we'll say a gorilla, and I'll just learn about gorillas for the day. It's crazy. Sign number 7. Sorry, I do have a list in front of me. Sign number 7, and it's not numbered like it should be. Sign number 7 that you may grow up to have an entire room dedicated to animals one day would be the fact that growing up, the only jobs you ever considered having as an adult were anything involving animals. For me, I wanted to be a herpetologist longer than I wanted to be anything else when I was asked what I wanted to be when I grew up. And then I'd have to explain to people what a herpetologist was, and it was the most annoying thing to me as a kid, because I was like, how do you not know what that is? But people don't. It's a study of reptiles and amphibians. But it would change. It would be herpetologist. That was the one that was the most consistent. And then occasionally it would be marine biologist, which didn't last very long. And then I just generalized it to zoologist because I got tired of explaining what a herpetologist was all the time. I did not grow up to be any of those things, by the way, but it is what it is. I still would love to get on a list to be a wildlife rehabber at some point. It just isn't the time or place for it in my life right now. So, another sign that you could potentially grow up to have an entire room dedicated to your pets are how much time you spend outside with animals. I might have learned how to tame some backyard lizards as a kid. I think they're called, I know they're called anoles. People use them, they're super common around here, but I guess not everywhere. They're used as a feeder lizard a lot of the time. Some people keep them as pets, but anoles, I would convince my parents to buy me mealworms, even though I had no reptiles. And I would put the mealworms in my hands, and I had all of the backyard lizards trained to just jump in my hand and jump out, and they would eat from my hands. It was kind of cool. Another thing is I learned another sign, I guess, is where to look for like your common gecko eggs. So I learned where I could find gecko eggs outside. I would take them. I learned how to incubate them myself in a little mason jar, actually is how I would do it. I would hatch them and then re-release them outside. It was kind of cool. I did have a neighbor who actually taught me how to do that, and she was actually older than my parents. But I would go over there, and she liked animals like I liked animals, and was a creative person like I was a creative person, and we just kind of became friends, even though there was a huge age difference, and she taught me these cool things, and it was super awesome. It totally made my day. Sign number 9 that you could potentially grow up to have an entire room dedicated to animals is what do you ask for your birthdays? Growing up as a kid, I wanted pet newts. Newts were my favorite animals for a really long time, and for my 10th birthday, my parents actually got me a pair of emperor newts, also known as crocodile newts. I loved them so much. Care wasn't what it was back then. They did not last that long, unfortunately, and I would love to have them again someday, but not anytime soon. That was like the best birthday ever, so much so that over 20 years later, I still think of it as being one of the best birthdays ever. And the obvious sign is number 10. I feel like this is super obvious that you may potentially one day grow up to have an entire room dedicated to animals, is if you are at a party and there is an animal, any kind of animal, dogs, the most common, I guess, cat, reptile, bird, not so much bird, birds freak me out, but fish, whatever. And you want to spend all your time talking about the animal, listing random facts, hanging out with the animal, because sometimes animals are just cooler than people, then you might grow up to have an entire room dedicated to pets one day. So this is kind of a fun video to do. Those are the top 10 reasons that I came up with, just like I said, based off of personal experience, just a little chit-chatty, get to know me kind of video. I've always been a little dorky. I'm not ashamed of it by any means, just like I'm not ashamed of any of my pets by any means. So just fun little get to know me video, and that's about it.